From America to Nigeria, I welcome Ayo to the show today. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. You're a very interesting player. 6'2", a centre forward, up there with a poacher, a few headers I'm sure you scored in your career. But
Yeah.
who are you as a player? Tell the audience who you are.
As a player, I think my strong suits have been making runs in behind. I feel like I have a natural eye for goal. I love, obviously, like any striker, I love to score goals. But I also just feel like my biggest strong suit is my work rate. I love to press the back line and since I'm the striker, I'm the first line of press. Everyone behind me, I feel like I have like a big influence on my team to press the back line and just I'm a natural competitor. I like to win.
But what happens if you don't win? What happens if it goes against you or a referee makes a bad decision? What do you think about?
I have like a very optimistic attitude. I even once said to my teammate that like I can't lose, like so it's just like even when we lose at the end of the game, football is just a game. Like I love football, it's my life, but it's just a game. Like there's always something you can learn from a loss. So I can't lose, win or lose. I feel like I can't lose.
Going into a game, what do you think about? Do because some players, they might move themselves away from the game. They might play a bit of PlayStation. They might play Xbox. They might talk to their friends. But for you, do you just concentrate on the game?
Um I like to visualize a lot, but I try not to stress myself out sometimes, especially if it's an away game, it becomes like a day long thing. I don't often think too much about the game itself until maybe warm-ups, but I don't like to think about the full 90. I try to just think about each step at a time. Just make sure I get my first pass off right, stuff like that, and then just make sure I'm mentally prepared. Yeah.
So today you're telling me so you're American, but you've moved to
Yeah.
Nigeria when you were 8, and that's when you started to fall in love with football. Was it
Yes.
Nigeria that got you into the game, or was it the American leaving to
Yeah,
Nigeria?
actually, growing up, I don't really come from a family of athletes, but I was always just like naturally just love to play sports and just play outside. But growing up, grew up in Maryland, in America. We would play a lot of basketball or just ride bikes and stuff. And then when I was 8 years old, we moved to Lagos, Nigeria. And I had a tough time when I first moved there because you can imagine, even though I'm Nigerian, I never really knew that side of my like heritage or my life. So when I got out there at first, it was really difficult for me. And I actually remember my mom telling me the story. Obviously, I was 8. She remembers it differently than me. I used to cry to school every single day just because I hated it so much. And then one day I just started playing football, and she said it was like a switch. Like I wasn't the best player at first, but it's just like I made friends through football. It was just something that I was able to do, and I actually felt like a part of the community. And then, yeah, by the time I left Nigeria, like that was just my focus. Like football was just everything. So yeah, Nigeria is a big part of my love for football.
Obviously, you were 8 years old, so the influence from yourself may not have been a huge, instance. But for your parents, when they moved you over to Nigeria, you came back 4 years later. Was that the plan, or was the plan to stay out there in Nigeria?
Um, Not that I know of. Because like you were mentioning earlier, parts of Nigeria are a bit corrupt. It was okay for me to go to like primary school and part of secondary school there. But when I wanted to get towards like a college education, my mom was decided to move back to America because I'd have a better um chance of a college education here. But yeah, getting into football in Nigeria, it was really about my dad because my dad used to play as a goalkeeper, and most Nigerians are just pretty big into football. So even before we moved to Nigeria, I used to watch football with him, but I had no real knowledge for the game. So as I started getting into it, he was the one that got me my first kit, my first boots. Like I used to watch games with him and talk to him about football. Then yeah,
But going from America to Nigeria is a big difference because you mentioned that basketball is the main sport in America. We all know that,
yeah,
and then Nigeria, you've said that football is quite a big sport out there.
yeah. It's the
From
biggest sport for sure.
basketball to football, what's the difference like in the terms of the people? Is there more support over in America for basketball, or was there visible help for football?
Now from growing up, basketball, like just you see basketball courts everywhere. Like, and I have family in New York. We go to New York. I'll play basketball there all the time. It was just basketball was just engraved in the community. Versus even when after I came back from Nigeria, me playing football was seen as very African because a lot of Africans play like soccer versus most of the African Americans who play basketball. It's just like it's more engraved into African American culture in America. So yeah, like I just naturally played it because that's what my friends were playing, and I just love like to this day I still play basketball because I just love sports.
Americans, though, I mean, I always talking to people about America. It seems to be a place
Yeah,
like a hub where a lot of people like to go and just, just buy normal places in life. But college stadiums are like 30,000 capacity. They're huge stadiums.
yeah,
You don't just have the facility. You've got the best facilities. And you
yeah.
have the abilities to be able to push yourself to play in the US national team, the Nigerian national team, whatever place you may come from. But is the funding clear for you? Was there clear funding when you were that age in America?
Like for me specifically, no, because like I said, I didn't come from a family of athletes. So me playing sports was literally just like the equivalent of just like kids playing outside. Like my mom didn't really pay it any mind. They knew I liked it, but they didn't understand that it could be a career path. They didn't understand, and I didn't understand that it could be a career path versus like in England, by the time you're 8, 9 years old, you could be signed for an academy. Like everyone kind of understands that. For me, it was really just pure love of the game, but it was no understanding of how much money was put into it or how much money could come out of it. Really, that's something I'm still kind of starting to understand now, in the past few years. Now that I've seen things with my own eyes, I'm starting to understand that like, wow, this is really like $1 billion industry.
What's it like then for somebody like yourself growing up in America? Having the opportunity to play football but trying to override it with basketball. What's it like for you as a person to be able to have this opportunity?
Um, I really am very thankful and grateful for this opportunity because I feel like I loved it. I loved football my whole life, but it wasn't something that I saw myself. Well, I knew personally I could go far in it, but like the results were just not coming until maybe in the most recent years. So it's nothing. I never thought I would really be in the position I am right now. But I've always been a very hardworking person, and I always never really let what's in front of me like stop me from what I could achieve. So yeah, I could easily say football changed my life. Like I probably wouldn't be in the UK if it wasn't for football. And I don't think I would play any other sport at an elite level like this. So definitely I just learned so much about life through football. It's helped me so much.
You've mentioned you're a hard worker, but where's that come from? Is that just a natural instinct given down by your parents?
We like to say Nigerians are just very hardworking, like
Yeah, I
it's a
agree. I
Nigerian,
agree.
yes, a Nigerian trait, I would like to say. But definitely I'll say my parents, like growing up, both my parents worked so hard and they were very transparent about that with me because I'm the oldest child. So they would always let me know, like they'll make sure I could have anything I want or anything I needed, but they made sure that they let me know that they worked for it and I have to work for it. And in life, you have to work for everything you want. And also just because in America, the situation with like me being a minority in America, they also told me I had to work twice as hard as the next person. So I just had that engraved in me, like work twice as hard for the same outcome. And then, yeah, I feel like being able to do that, I've been able to see outcomes bigger than I could even imagine.
So when you look back at your time in America, do you think that there was a disadvantage for yourself because you're a minority? Was that everything that came up?
100%, 100%. Because even though, like I mentioned before, most people who were like me played basketball, maybe ran track. Not a lot of African Americans were playing soccer in America. So like, not I think I'm probably one of like two on my teams growing up, like playing middle school and high school. I think there was one or two of us, and we both came from Africa. So it was just kind of like a certain stigma to it, because there's also a stigma to African players. We're not usually seen as being as technical or this, that, and the third. So I felt like, yeah, I didn't look like the natural soccer player there or the average soccer player there. But since I started playing in Nigeria, that didn't really affect me too much because I knew that I could bring 5 random kids from Nigeria. They're way better than all these guys. You know what I mean? I mean, it might not be me, but like I've really seen talent
Yeah, of course.
in my country. So it's like I understand that like, yeah, we still it didn't really phase me too much. I still feel it here in the UK definitely too.
But what do you see? What? Because it must be a demotivation, to understand that you've
Um,
disadvantaged.
like I said, I'm used to working twice as hard for the same outcome, and I'm a very optimistic person because I just don't like to have like unnecessary stress. I just feel like everything happens for a reason. And I don't get angry at anybody because I also understand how big like internalized racism is and like stuff like subconscious like actions. Like I don't think, oh, he's not playing me because I'm black or something like that. I just think that like I understand how things look in a bigger sense, if that makes sense. Like it's where I am, I'm just not the majority. Not everyone looks like me. They might not play like me. It's certain things like coaches are not trying to do me a favor. At the end of the day, they're doing their job. I have to make sure I'm the best option for them. And I think things being quote unquote harder for me made me the better player. Because if I had an easy ride, I probably wouldn't be the player I am today.
I always talk to people, and they often say that they have to have a hard shell across their back because they need to have this hard work and dedication. Because 1% of academy players, make it to that professional status.
Yeah,
Kids, especially in the UK that I've seen, are training every day. Their parents are paying hundreds, thousands of pounds to make them the ultimate goal of becoming the footballer that they would like to become. But that's not the
yeah,
reality for most people. But for Africans, I've seen it a lot, and with the African Cup of Nations here right now, it's a great
yeah,
opportunity to showcase what Africa holds. However, there's also some players in Africa, in Asia, in places that might not get as much recognition that don't even get where you are, for example, just purely
yeah,
because
hundred
of where they
percent,
are. But what is
100%.
holding back Africa? What gates need to be unlocked to welcome this new realm of football?
Um, Honestly, from what I've seen, it's really just lack of facilities and lack of training from a young age. Like we play all day from a young age, you play, but there's no such thing as real academies. And if there are academies, it's only for like you mentioned, like maybe the top percent, the richest people, maybe like people who have parents in the government, stuff like that. Like you have to be pretty connected. It's just not very fair because even I in Africa, obviously, like the currencies are different. I didn't grow up with a poor upbringing there, but like we didn't always have a football to play with. Like sometimes we would crush up a water bottle, we'd play with. It's just a different love for the game. Like we would play on the streets all day, rip our shirt. Like it was just like that, but it's just like we like I mentioned, sometimes we didn't even have a ball. My school didn't even have a turf field until like 2, 3 years into a school. We played on the sand. Like the lack of facilities, the lack of just somebody guiding these like raw talents. Because the thing is with England, there's academy players are built like they're like machines, like they just know the game. I feel like I didn't even understand the game until I had to come here, really, because it's just no one teaching you. They just let you play, kind of thing. There's no real structure, and I feel like with the right structure and infrastructure in place, a lot of talents could, as you can see from the African Cup, like all the players who have left Africa to go somewhere else and now coming back, they're showing their talents.
I've been to Morocco many times, and more recently, I've really started to understand that we're privileged. Especially me
Yeah,
coming from England. And obviously America as well. We're very privileged in the sense that we can have these opportunities at near enough a click of a finger. I can go down the street,
yeah,
play some football if I wanted to right now. I can have a football at my disposal whenever I wanted to. But when we're in Morocco or we're in maybe a less wealthy country in terms of people on an average, I do start to think that they are very, very unprivileged, But if I gave them a football, the amount of things going through their head,
yeah. The love for it.
exactly. And you mentioned that you crush up a water bottle and play football, and it's a different board game, out there because it might not be a football, it might be, like you said, a crushed up water bottle, it might be, I don't know, whatever it may be, it's a difference, but that makes people different, see the game differently. We see with
Yeah,
Moroccan players, they're much bigger, they're much stronger, but they're also much better with their feet, because
100%.
a lot of the UK ballers, footballers, whatever they may be called, they're not so good with their feet. Whereas you look in Brazil, they're very good with their feet. So is
Yeah,
that something that also Nigerians can have on as well?
100%. I feel like we were all just because also we didn't understand, like for instance, like now that I'm in England, I understand that like dribbling past everybody is not necessarily the best way to play football. But back then, that's all you wanted to do. Like I could care less. I mean, obviously I love to score, but like I'd rather dribble past somebody and then like obviously you see the Nigerian greats like JJ Okocha kind of like that's what we were seeing too. Also, we also love the Brazilians as well, Ronaldinho, Neymar. We just on the street when you're playing on the street, everyone just loves to dribble past each other because we're really doing it for reactions. And back then, obviously, like I said, we're playing, it's for fun. Like we could care less about who wins or loses. So we didn't really think much about like structure of the game or like what's efficient. It was really just really fun for us. I didn't even understand how much that translates into my game now until I was able to come here because even though I feel like I might dribble a little bit less, it's something that's been very natural for me because that's the first thing I ever did when I was playing. It was just like how to do moves. Like we would watch on YouTube. how to do certain moves, and you would come to the game and do it in front of the whole school, and it was just like it was a really big thing. Dribbling in that sense is just like, yeah, it's a big thing for I think all African players.
In Nigeria, but in Africa as well, is there more of a community around football? Because you mentioned playing in front of the whole school. That's never an
Yeah,
opportunity given to myself.
yeah. Like I said, my mom was saying that football literally was the only way I was able to kind of like click when I went there. I went from being a kid who used to cry every day to being like a pretty well-known kid because as like as I grew into football, by the time I was in year 5, I was considered one of the better players in my school, and you would play for the school team. So like it was you would get to leave class early and stuff. Like people knew who was good, kind of thing. And it's like if you were good at football, that was it. Like you're that guy. Like it was just that. Versus when I came to America, I had to beg people to come to my games. Like no one could care less. Like everyone had the basketball games. Like no one could care. But like in Nigeria, it's a huge community. Like I don't think it's unheard of someone saying they don't watch football. Like it's just that's what we do.
I want to know the difference though between, for people who might not be so well known on football or in the comparisons between nations, to understand that, England, Germany, France is having a much better privilege, but also it is harder in a way to become a footballer because you look at all the people that are in the academies, oh, I'm in Tottenham Academy, I'm this close to becoming a pro, but really you're this close. You're very, very far away from being that player. Until you make your Premier League debut, you're not a Premier League player.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
But in Nigeria, the problem is they have the lack of clubs, they have the lack of academies.
Yeah.
Is there visible corruption in football that you see in Nigeria? And if so, what?
There's visible corruption and everything in Nigeria. Like whenever and this is just me also, like as I said, I grew up there as young, so like I know I was being shielded from stuff, but even yet I could still see certain things. Like even to play football for our school, we had to pay, you know what I'm saying? So if you can't afford it, you can't play. It wasn't extremely expensive, but that's just to play for the school, like in the school backyard. Like we weren't even playing against other teams, we're playing against each other, stuff like that. Like it was just a lot of also just no one's really, as I said earlier, there's no one bringing no a lot of like scouts who are looking there to bring players overseas and stuff. And if they are, they're looking for a lot of money. Because the thing is, the successful Nigerians do have a lot of money, but those aren't necessarily the ones who love the game that much. I'm saying like the kids who are playing on the streets every single day are the ones who have the real love for the game. The kids who are like can't even watch Premier games on TV. They're like listening to it on the radio and stuff like that, but they know everything. Those are the kids who really love the game. But yeah, there's a lot of corruption around the game in Nigeria that I would feel like, yeah,
So if you took then a very privileged Nigerian, who's in the academy, to someone who is equally as good or even better than them, probably on
yeah,
paper they might well be, who can't afford to go to a trial or can't afford to play for the school. If you gave them both the option to come to England or go to Germany to play in a decent tier, who would treat the opportunity better? Who would understand how much of a better privilege it is?
oh, definitely like a Nigerian would definitely be very like someone who hasn't been even able to even like grasp the fact that that's something that could happen for them. If that was able to happen for them, they would definitely take it extremely seriously. But I do think the one disadvantage is just the lack of basic technique. Because as I said, we all know how to dribble and stuff like that. But can you control the ball first touch? Like those are the things that are really make an elite footballer. So they might work the hardest, but it might not necessarily like translate. But if they're given like the right infrastructure and they're able to teach them the right techniques, I'm sure that a lot of talent will come out of Africa.
So when you were circling around America, it was before 2021, I believe, before you moved to England. I want to talk about
Yeah,
a journey from America to England. Another big move.
yeah,
Halfway across the
100%.
world. When did this come about that you were thinking of leaving America to come to England?
It happened so quickly. That's what I mean when I said I wasn't seeing results. Because anyone who knows me throughout middle school and high school, I told anyone who would listen that I'm gonna play Division 1 soccer. Like that's what I'm gonna do. Like I could care less about anything else. Like I made it, and then saying that, but I only played 1 season on varsity, and that was my senior season, where it's like you kind of have to play varsity. And in that season, I had like 4 goals, So since Nigeria, I haven't been a star player my whole time in America. In Nigeria, growing up, I was considered a star player, but in America, my lack of technique, my lack of guidance, honestly, and the lack of I just didn't feel like I think my coaches were great. I don't think they really thought that I could improve. I don't think they underestimated how willing I was to work hard. I think so. They didn't really care too much, which I didn't fault them for. But yeah, nothing was really giving. I was just really working hard. The one thing I did do a lot that I feel like set me apart from the others is I used to email coaches every single day. So towards my senior year, I did end off the year because obviously 2020 is when COVID hit. I had like 10 different coaches I was talking to. Maybe like two were D1, but nothing. I had maybe like a few offers from D3 on the table, nothing too crazy, but I really had my eyes set on like the highest level and it wasn't looking good. Then the I2I Academy England reached out to me. Honestly, when I first got the email, since I've been emailing coaches, at this point, I've been emailing coaches like every day or almost every day for like 2, 3 years. I rarely get emails from a coach I didn't reach out to. So I was pretty like, how did you get my information, stuff like that. But at this point, my information was everywhere. So it made sense. I got on a phone call with them and then they pretty much explained everything to me. They told me my options going to York or Newcastle. I remember telling my mom, she could barely believe it too. Like it was kind of just like a okay kind of thing. Like this was like a real Hail Mary. And then I was able to get into the schools. I committed. And honestly, I don't think I understood what I was getting into until I came here. Like I didn't understand that, oh wow, like I'm gonna be living across the world or I'm not gonna be able to go home whenever there's inconvenience. Like I really just was just chasing my dreams. I was 18 years old. I just was like I never in a million years thought I would be playing football in England. Like I just wanted to play D1 and even that seems so far fetched. People told me to my face, like, you know you're not gonna be able to play D1. And I was just like, dang, like and then now it's just like crazy looking back on it because I wasn't even the best player. It wasn't like they were hating on me. I wasn't the best player. My stats didn't prove it. My highlights were okay. Like, but yeah, it was a huge leap. But yeah, it definitely changed my life.
Did you ever find out how they got your information, or was it just a case of knowing
They
people?
said that I had a profile on NCSA and I forget the other website, but I had player profiles where I was able to like reach out to coaches from different websites. But like I said, I reach out to coaches so often, I often forget that who I've reached out to or where I put my stuff. So when they reached out to me and I set up the call with them, like I don't know where the initial contact was made, but once it was made, we just stayed in contact. And to answer your initial question, this was 2 months or 3 months. I don't know. This was March 2020. So this is just like 2 months before I'm about to graduate high school. Most of my classmates have committed to schools and stuff. It was time for me to commit to school. So like this was pretty last minute. It's also in the midst of a global pandemic. So like everything was moving pretty quick. I was out. I committed in March and then I left for England in September.
How did the pandemic affect you?
Honestly, if I think it affected me, same affected everyone. I think it changed me kind of like I'm I would still say I'm a pretty social person, but I really learned to live with myself and do things by myself and kind of grow up. Because at the time, it was me, my mom, my brother, my sister, four of us. We were in a two-bedroom apartment, and like we couldn't leave the house. So I was like, I shared a room with my brother. It was kind of driving me crazy. The one thing though I was able to do because my mom didn't let me go out to hang out with people, but the one thing I was able to do was go to the field to train. So I was training every day, which is something that I was doing since I was like 16. But obviously I couldn't drive. I was able to just go to the local field. Now I'm able to go to my high school field with goals and stuff. And I was training every single day. And I just really had like tunnel vision. I was really locked in. I was like, if I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna be prepared, because I already understood the fact in my head, I understood that it was a leap of faith that I wasn't necessarily a top recruit or anything like that. So the pandemic really just made me realize that like life can change like this. It can be good or bad. Because obviously the world seemed like it was crashing down around everybody. But it's one of probably the best thing that ever happened to me just happened. So it was just like, yeah.
So when you got asked to come to England to play for Eye to Eye, I'm trying to get my head around. Are they a professional academy? Like, why would they offer
Um,
you the opportunity and the status to come over to the UK?
because they had like I said, I was looking for a school. They have a partnership with at the time it was just York and Northumbria. Now it's Leeds as well. They have like 3 universities they're partnered with. So it's the largest academy in the UK, I believe. They partner with universities, so they bring kids not just mostly from America, but from all around the world. You're able to play for the team. All my coaches played ex-professional. Some of them played in the Prem, and we are able to play at a pretty high level. And while we're studying and getting our degree here, so yeah, they pretty much when they reached out to me initially, they pretty much pitched that to me. And like I said, like it kind of sounded too good to be true. But obviously, we had to pay for the academy along with the school. But because the college in the UK is a bit cheaper than college in America or private colleges in America, it kind of worked out to be about the same, so it made sense.
So you were flying over to the UK. What was your first recall of a memory that you have of the UK after stepping off the plane?
Well, obviously, I was like, this is cold and everywhere is gray. I've been to the UK before. I had family down south, so I've been to London, but like this is my first time flying alone, and I'm flying from New York to London to Newcastle. Like it felt crazy. I remember getting to my room. This is my first time getting my own bedroom too, because I just always shared a room with my brother. So I was just like, what do I do? Kind of thing. Like in my head, I was kind of psyched out because I was one of the later people were already there. All my roommates were already there. I'm meeting people. And as I said, I'm a competitor. I wanted to know who was the best player, who to be with, who not to be with. And we had to quarantine for the first 2 weeks there. So I didn't get to train until 2 weeks in being into the UK. So it's not like I just got there at football. So for first 2 weeks, I wasn't even a footballer. I was just a student in the UK. And yeah, it was strange, really, especially in Newcastle. It's pretty like it's nothing like I've ever seen before. It's pretty strange, but I think I adapted.
I mean, you may have heard about the Newcastle fans. I'm sure you may have seen them, and
Oh,
the hecticness of
yeah, I
going from
used
New
to
York
live
to
right next to
Newcastle.
the Newcastle Stadium, so like I have a different type of love for the Newcastle fans now.
And what do you make of it? So Saudi Arabia, owned company taking over Newcastle. What's been happening up there?
Oh, I love it. I love what's going on with football here because I like the fact that they didn't just go out and just buy all the known names and stuff. Like this is a real football team, and I've seen them play live like twice. I usually watch all the games like with my teammates, everything. I just love the community. Cause like I said, I'm coming from Nigeria where everyone rallies around football. And obviously it's usually like the Nigerian team that wouldn't play throughout the year versus like now I'm in Newcastle where it's like everyone's a Newcastle fan. Like even if you support another team, you're a Newcastle fan. You know what I mean? So it's like I just love it. I just love the energy around it. It's and like I said, I used to live right next to the stadium. So they have a park next to the stadium. I would train there, and it was just a lot of motivation because I would either know somebody who knows someone who's in the academy or people who've been in the academy. It just felt so real to me versus from when I was like in America or Nigeria where it felt so out of reach. It felt like it was right there.
I have to be real with you though. You've been thrown in the deep end here because Newcastle fans are some of the most craziest fans, on paper in the world.
No,
So
definitely.
you could have gone to somewhere. No disrespect, you could have gone to somewhere like Leicester or
Yeah,
less loud teams, less tops
yeah.
off, shirts off when the goal goes in. But that culture may have taught you something. Has it taught you anything? Maybe there's more pressurized on footballers.
Um, yeah, at first, I'm not gonna lie, because my coach, my first coach was a Geordie as well. I thought he hated me. Like I was just like, this guy is so mean. Like I don't know how I'm gonna do this. But now it's just like it's real passion. Like the same passion I felt as a kid is what the everyone here feels. It just sounds a little bit different. Maybe I'm not used to certain with things they say, but as I said, with time I was able to adapt, and I really grew to love it. Like I really do. Even when I go home in America, I'm watching all the Newcastle games. Like it just like it's always gonna be a part of me.
If you could choose then to play in America or England, what one would you pick?
Obviously, I really like the development of just soccer as a whole in America. But personally, as a player, I feel like I would want my first contract to be in Europe because I feel like not only would that be great in my CV, I still feel like I have some developing to do. and I don't think America's the best place to develop right now. I think it still kind of has that like retirement home, like go there at the end of your career kind of vibe to it, which honestly, it would be an honor for me. I always tell anyone I'll play anywhere in the world, and I'll be pretty comfortable in America being American. But I've learned to embrace being uncomfortable. So while I'm here, I might as well just really go in the deep end and play somewhere where it's going to be harder for me, I think.
Has the determination stopped? Are you still emailing coaches and getting your name out there?
Yeah, I think I actually was talking to someone right before this. I'm talking to people all the time because it's like I always tell myself the same way I'm not supposed to be here. Maybe I'm not supposed to be a pro, whatever. I'm gonna do it. You know what I mean? Like if I was able to do this and get this far, I could go further. Like I didn't come this far just to come this far. Like coming this far alone wasn't even part of the plan. So I might as well just, go all out. And now at that time, like my mom was like, my parents were kind of like, yeah, you can do it. But they weren't, how parents, they don't want to like build you up and then watch you fall. But now my parents are like, yeah, you're going to do it. Like I have more support. It seems more real. So yeah, I'm more determined than ever.
I mean, we haven't really spoken about what's happened so far in the last years, which we're going to get onto. But it's so crazy because you've got to somewhere that a lot of people will dream of. Maybe there might be English dream of it, there might be American and dream of it, there might be Brazilian and dream of it. But you've got
Yeah.
there without really putting in everything, it seems to me. There hasn't been any backing financially behind you, or from what we've spoken about so far. You've been in minorities in America, against basketball and all sorts of things. Do you agree with me? Do you think that you've got there without putting everything at it?
Personally, like within myself, I put everything in. I understand. I think you
Of
feel
course.
like maybe I didn't have like the community that some people feel like you need to have, but obviously the community I was given was enough, and I'm very grateful for it. Like my mom and like as I said, I lived in Nigeria. Like even though I wasn't necessarily the poorest, I saw the poverty. Like just to be able to like play football is a blessing. So like if you don't have a roof over your head, why are you playing football? You know what I mean? Like I had enough where I was able to at least focus on my dream, and my mom didn't make me, or my parents didn't make me feel like I had to put my dream aside to help them out or anything like that. Like I think the structure I had helped me a lot, and it still does help me a lot. Like I'm able to call either of my parents and talk to them about. My mom doesn't know football that much, but like she learned football because of me. Obviously, my dad plays football. I talked to him in depth about football, so it's like I'm very grateful for the community I have, and even the community I've grown to have now in Newcastle. Because I've been in Newcastle about 3 years now. I've now met a few players in the academy and outside the academy. It's just like everywhere I'm going, I'm meeting people. The community is growing, and yeah. Even though I feel like I don't have the traditional like PR team or whatever behind me, like pushing me, I feel like it's really helped me a lot because I'm somebody who likes to learn from everybody. So I feel like I've learned a lot from everybody I've crossed paths with.
What's the next plan in your career? You're relatively young, but I'm sure you'd like to get this pro contract as soon as possible.
Yeah.
What would it be? What's the likely option for you right now, talking to all these coaches?
Um, like I said, I would love to play anywhere in the world, but if I could choose, I would want to stay in Europe for now. Um, since I started really seriously talking to agents and coaches about 2 years ago, which everything I feel like I'm doing is relatively late compared to like the British kids I'm around who've been playing in academies since young. But at the same time, to even be in the same discussion of them versus because of my life versus theirs is a bit surreal. But I still like to compare myself to them. Like when I was 16 watching the World Cup, I saw Mbappe. I'm like, he's 2 years older than me. Like, you know what I mean? Like me and him bleed the same blood. Like he's not different than me. So I'm very much like I'm ready for anything. I would love to play at the highest level. I want to play professionally, and I have played with a few professional players, so I know it's pretty realistic. I just understand that football is a business. No one's trying to do you favors. Professional teams want professional players. Like no one's trying to make my dreams come true. So once I realized that, I told myself that I am a professional player with or without a contract, and then the contract will come.
So as I've said, so you could look at playing, up north, down south, France, Germany, Sweden, wherever it
Yeah,
may be. But so I was talking to a player a few months ago where he was playing in the National League of England, so that's the fifth
yeah,
tier, and he managed to get a professional contract over in Lithuania, purely because of his connections, but also because of his agent. Is an
Yeah.
agent something that will help you, or you're not really interested in that?
Yeah. I reach out to agents, but obviously I think especially when you're looking for that first contract, you have to be careful because I've seen a lot of people, they do try to scam some people, some players. Some agents aren't legit, but obviously if I was able to come across a legit agent that could help me, yes. But at the same time, like I said, I kind of got here almost by myself, so I'm very much willing to get to the next place by myself. Whoever's willing to help me, I'll take the help, but I'm not waiting for anyone to help me. Like I'm very proactive. I'm talking to people almost every single day. I've been told no 1,000 times, but it's like you only need one yes. Obviously, if I can get a yes from an agent, perfect. If I get a yes directly from a manager, however it plays out, I feel like I'm ready. But yeah, I understand also it's very hard to progress in England. So I'm right now I'm pretty looking for to look to play outside of England, like overseas, what they'll call it.
If you had to compare yourself to the divisions of England, so you've got the Premier League, League One, League Two, Championship, National League, where would you put yourself right now? And looking into the future at the peak of your career, where would you put yourself then?
Right now I'm actually playing step six. I don't know. That's like the league under it's the Northern League, which is the league under the National League. I
Yeah.
have friends who play National League or National League North, National League. So well, actually one of my boys just got promoted to the National League. And honestly, like I feel like I can play at that level. I'm not saying I'll be the star player, but like I always told myself I don't want to be the star player on the team. If I see myself being a star player in the team and it's not a prem team, I'm going to a better team. I'm too young to, you know what I mean? Like I know I can grow as a player. So I see myself playing at that level right now. Honestly, I think I have the ability to play at that level right now. I understand that it may not happen for me, but yeah, I think that's a good level for me to play at, honestly.
And what about the peak of your career? When you retire, which seems quite far away, where would you
Oh
like to see
yeah,
yourself?
man, it's if you're not in the Prem, everyone wants to play in the Prem.
Of
I feel
course.
like the Premier League is just, and then I watch a lot of Prem football. I just feel like it's not impossible. Like it's really not impossible. You just need a foot in the door. But yeah, I would love to play in the Prem or League Two. Any first league in a top five country in Europe would be amazing. Would be surreal. But yeah, as of right now, I just want to get my foot in the door. I'm very much worried about the next step. And then from the next step, then the next step. I don't really look at the end too much because I feel like I just started.
For yourself, though, is the motivation that Premier League goal? Is it the goal of your parents? What motivates you on a match day, but also when the matches aren't in sight in a pre-season or post-season?
Well, my motivation comes from within, honestly. Like right now, I've been growing up. My motivation, I think, as of right now, my motivation comes from the ability to influence others. Because, like you mentioned before, like I'm in a position where a lot of people coming from my background wouldn't be able to get into. So it's like I do feel like I have some eyes on me, nothing crazy, but I kind of want the eyes on me. I want people to see that, like, hey, like I can do this, and you can do this because I kind of made it from nothing, kind of thing. So like, my motivation comes from just wanting people to believe in themselves so they can do it too. Because I honestly feel like I'm not the best player or anything. I work very, very hard, and any athlete will tell you hard work beats talent every single day. And I believe I'm talented too. So if you got both, you can go anywhere.
So then, in 2021, you were playing for the I2I Academy. However, there's a bit of confusion for me because you were also playing for Wide Open FC, and you
Yeah,
left that to focus on I2I. What was the
yeah.
reasoning behind that?
So obviously I came to the UK to play for the I2I Academy. When I during my first season, COVID hit. So I think we only played like 4 or 5 games, then COVID hit. Throughout that time, we were playing we were, we are just training, but we didn't even get to train at our normal training ground. We were training at like parks and stuff. So like a lot of one-on-one stuff. That's where I feel like I developed a lot. Now it's time to get back into the games. I played a few games with my team, a teammate of mine who I didn't even know. He was playing for Wide Open. Apparently, his manager came to the game. He scouted me. He said he wanted to sign me, and I was like, "All right, cool." I go to Wide Open. They welcomed me. They were great. I loved it there. But then I just kind of realized that like between school and playing for the academy, like I just couldn't juggle it all. As much as I love football, like I had a serious conversation with my mom. I was like, I'm not gonna come here and forget what I came here for. I have to leave with a degree, kind of thing. So Yeah, I decided to just, put that down for a while. But I did like my time there. I felt like it built a lot of confidence. I was able to also understand what real men's football, because that's my first time playing for a men's team. I think at the time I was like 19. So yeah, yeah, I had to just leave wide open for a while.
And you got the Player of the Month in November. What was that feeling like? Only moving from another country a matter of months ago to now getting the Player of the Month.
It was a great feeling because obviously that was also my birthday month, so it just felt like great. And as I said, like we didn't get too many games under our belt at that time, like because we came back from COVID. We had a preseason in the summer, which we wouldn't usually have. So like I was just like I had that hunger was just alive. Like even the ability, the chance to practice felt like a blessing. Like every time I stepped on the field, I was just so happy and so hungry. And yeah, I feel like it was deserved. I was at that by that time I started my goal streak. I was scoring almost every game, and yeah, it was a great feeling. I just felt like for the first time in a long time, I felt recognized as a football player, and it wasn't just me bigging myself up. Like I was actually had my peers and my coaches saying, "No, you're actually good."
I play striker. I mean, nowhere near the level that you're playing at, but I like to try and score some goals as
Yeah,
much as I can. But there's sometimes that when I've gone on a long game of without scoring goals, but there's also a time where I'll come back and then get 12 goals in 12 games.
yeah,
And that's something that I like to do. I always like to outscore the number of games that I play. So if I play 10 games, I like to score 11 goals. Of course, same for
yeah.
you, same for any striker. But when that period hits where you haven't maybe hit the back of the net on a few occasions, or it's been 5 games, 1 goal, how do you motivate yourself to keep going? I mean, we spoke about that before, but in this sense, when it's looking like there's no clear path.
Yeah, I say it was different because before I did like I had like that huge goal, like big growth, that big season where I scored a lot, like in high school and stuff. I was kind of used to not scoring, but like at that point, I was just like, if I'm not scoring, am I assisting? Am I playing well? Am I getting the ball? Anything I could do to influence the game. But then after you're known for scoring goals, not scoring, it hurts. Like I can't lie, like it hurts a lot not scoring. But like I said, I had to humble myself and realize that like, hey, it's not always about me. As long as the team is scoring, and if we're losing, what can I do to help? Kind of thing. By the end of the day, like as a striker, I feel like my job is to score. Sometimes it's football. Not even some of the best strikers can't score. I feel like okay, if I used to score, maybe I used to make runs in behind all the time. If that was my way of scoring, and I'm not scoring now, maybe I should play with the back to the ball, turn them, try to switch up my game, just learn just yeah, I think it just motivates me to learn. When things aren't working one way, I just try something else and try to make my game more versatile.
So in 2022, you were still at I2I and you got
Yeah.
into the gold team. So I'm presuming that's the best team.
Yeah, the best team in I2I.
And so how many teams are there in I2I? Is it just the men's team
I
or is there
honestly
younger teams?
I can't even count right now. I feel like at least 6 to 8 teams at the time because it grows. It was growing every year. So we had a few teams because I it was in York and Northumbria. So at Newcastle we had the red team and the gold team at the time. So all the first years were automatically in the red team, and then you kind of progress into the gold team. So like I was bound to go into the gold team, but like I wasn't always a starter in the red team. Like, I started off as a bench warmer on the red team, then a starter on the red team, and then into the gold team as like I started every single game and I played almost 90 minutes every game. So even though it was technically kind of like I was going to play for the gold team, my role on the gold team was something that I feel like yeah, it was pretty exciting.
And that worked quite well with you. 27 goals, 8 assists. What was that season like to finish off a campaign with such? And also, let me just add, you won the league and went 13 games on a winning streak. What was that like?
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, I feel like that's the best team I played with. Now I miss those guys. Like, it was just the first time I feel like ever where everything was kind of clicking. I mean, not every obviously not everything. I could complain about every kind of my perfectionist when it comes to football, but like a lot of things were clicking for me, and I had the confidence because I feel like a lot of my teammates could testify to this. My game was developing, but the goals were not coming. Like I was able to get in front of the goal a lot, but I was missing. Like I was actually known for missing. Like, and then from that to like a few months later, if I was 1-on-1 with the keeper, like everyone knew, like you know what I mean. Like I was kind of known for scoring, so it created a lot of confidence for me. I felt like I could be that guy on the team. I wasn't used to being that guy in a long time. I was used to being more of a supporting cast. versus being the if we need a goal, go to him. So I like being able to be that guy. And it's also gave me something else to chase because when that comes, obviously the season came to an end. The next season wasn't the same. Now I feel like I can chase that, but I want to chase that at the higher level.
So when this season ended, then you were on the all-time scoring record list, or I believe you were like
Yeah,
seventh. I believe it was somewhere in these notes. Yes, the seventh most goals in ITY history with 43. However, in
yeah,
2022, you were training for a few teams, Division One. So you were looking for maybe a way out of ITY. You're grateful for what they've done for you, but now you would like to move on. And you trade with two teams, and you play for two teams pre-season, both in
yeah.
Division One of the Northern League. Why were you looking for options?
Like I said, I'm always looking to get out my comfort zone. And I actually have the thing where it's like if I find myself comfortable, I get scared because it's like what am I comfortable for? Like you can't comfort and growth cannot coexist. And I want to grow. I want to grow so bad. So it's like I was scoring a lot of goals. We were winning a lot of games. I was comfortable. I was getting like I broke some records. I was on the top. Like I had nothing else to accomplish there. Anything else I would have accomplished there wouldn't put me further than I feel like I am now. I felt like I was ready for the next level, and I had the credentials to be able to get into the next level. So yeah, since I was able to show my CV to some of these coaches, they let me come train with them, and I'm very grateful for that because it opened up my eyes to realize that like this is a different level of football, and it's time to grow again.
Halfway through 2023, you decided to leave I2I. What was that feeling like? Being there for about a year and a bit, to probably make some friends, nice coaches along the way, have some great
Yeah.
memories. What was the decision process like from that to leaving?
Honestly, I told my coach in the beginning of the season that this would be my last season because, like I said, I'm always looking to grow, and I told him my goal for the end of the season was to play in the Northern League, which is what I'm playing in now. So, it wasn't surprising. Like I knew that's what I wanted to do, but it wasn't easy because at the end of the day, like my team, my Northern League team, they don't train every day like the I2Y Academy does. We don't have the like we pay for the academy, so like we had a lot of support compared to a local team around here. So it was kind of hard not having the structure and support. But like I said, I was able to grow again. Like I honestly do feel like I've become a better player since I left. And that's no fault of the academy because I felt like the academy made me a good player as well. I knew I personally had to leave to grow again. I was getting too comfortable there.
So you mentioned that you're in the sixth step of football. The tiers in England are so very confusing. However, you're in the
Yeah,
sixth tier, and
yeah,
National League's fifth. And I was speaking to someone the other day who was a bit mind boggled. They couldn't believe that the fifth tier is professional. A lot of teams in that
yeah,
division are professional. So one promotion, you're on a professional contract, or on paper, you may well be, and
yeah,
that can mean traveling up and down the country for games. It wouldn't just be up north.
yeah.
Are you prepared for that right now? Are you prepared to go that extra league?
100%. I'm 100% prepared for that. That's what I'm working towards. And yeah, like I said, like I feel like the biggest thing I didn't know when I was 18 what I was doing, jumping across the world on a plane to go across the world. But I feel like what I looking back now, what I did was I prepared myself to do it again. Like as I said, I'm comfortable. Even now that I'm not with the academy, I'm comfortable in Newcastle. Like I know I could play for teams here. I could do things here. I want to go. I want to see what football is like everywhere. Like I've been on trials overseas now. I've seen football, like my perspective, I have a different like hunger for it. So yeah, I'm definitely ready for that or anything.
We've still got a year left of things to talk about. In 2023, it was an interesting year. 43 goals you ended with. But this one promotion away, is that a realistic thing going into the last few months of this season?
Um, Honestly, I say never, but I have been having some problems. I'm not getting consistent playing time at the team I'm with right now, and I don't feel like it's necessarily my fault because, like I said, like what I've understood here, the league I'm playing with, even though it's semi-professional, it seems very much like it's about who you know. And a lot of people have been playing in that league for a lot of years. Like no matter what team I am, and I'm one of the younger players, which and not everyone. Well, I'll say most of the players are not looking to play professionally. Like everyone's pretty comfortable in that league, so it's not necessarily the best place I would say to grow. But I think it's something I have to go through because I have to be able to. I have to be able to learn something from the game I'm playing here. Like it's not necessarily. I don't think it's the greatest football in the world. I don't think I'm necessarily struggling there, but I feel like there's stuff I can learn, like physicality at that league compared to the physicality at I2Y. definitely different. So I feel like I was able to up my physicality, learn how to play stuff there, and then I think the more I learn at this league, I'll be ready for the next league. It's just really about getting that opportunity. Because the thing about coaches, like I said, they like who they know. Why would they bring me to a league I've never played to versus someone who's played there before or who's played leagues higher? Like there's players everywhere. You know what I mean? So it's just like, yeah.
You've got to be, as a non-league player, a very hard nut to crack at times because I forgot what player said it, but there was a Premier League player that said he'd rather play for a Premier League team, of course, than a National League team purely because of the fans. You can hear everything that a fan says. I'm not sure what the
Mhm.
turnout is for you lot. Maybe you can tell us how many fans would come on a normal occasion. But do you ever feel under pressure because they're so close to you and because you can hear what they're saying?
Like, yeah, I like it because like I grew up. I'm saying like my whole school would come to my games. Like I grew up like I love people watching my games. I would call people to watch my games, and not just because I like necessarily fans. I like criticism. I feed off of it because that's another thing where you can grow off of. If you're telling me things, they're usually not just shouting anything. They're saying things maybe might not sound like the best, but they're criticizing me, and there's the things I can learn from. My games usually don't have too many fans, and I'm not gonna lie, I personally haven't been like scolded too much, but that's also because I'm very opening to listen. Like I love when my coach kind of shouts at me because I'm gonna do what he says. Like I'm gonna learn from that. I like having players who are older than me shouting at me because I learn. Like I embrace it all. So yeah, I don't mind that, and I'm also ready for more fans and the all the like quote unquote hate or whatever. Like I'm ready for it. I think it's part of the game.
Would you move down north? Is it a feasible option for you to move elsewhere in the country to be able to play your football?
Oh yeah, I was actually talking about that with one of my boys the other day about opportunities down south because it does seem like there's a lot of teams there, and compared to up north, well, he's lived in England most of his life. He was telling me from his experiences that it seems like there's more chance for players like us to make it down south. So that's something I would want to experience, like for myself. But like I said, I'm not waiting for anyone to hand it to me. I don't think it's going to be easy anywhere I am. I'm just going to be ready to go places. If I get something from there, I don't. If I don't, like I'm at least learn. At least the least I'm going to be able to do is learn. So yeah, I would like to go down there. Obviously, I'm in university up north right now, so it's not like I can just up and leave. But that's something I might look into for the summer or the next transfer window.
So you signed your first professional contract with Sunderland RCA, a feeling that you've probably been waiting for a long time. That's the midway through to that professional contract.
Yeah.
What was that feeling like? How was the phone call? Was there a phone call and email to get you called up to sign that pro contract,
Actually, I've
semi-professional
been on
contract?
yeah the semi pro. That was a few months ago. Yeah, I actually had been on trial with them. Um they were starting from scratch, so they were building a whole new team. So like they were signing like 20 something players. And I had my friend who's been playing in the Northern League for a lot of years. He started a small agency called Evil Spire. And I was the first person to sign for that agency because since I met him, he told me he played in the Northern League. I told him I said that's what I want to do. You know what I mean? So like from that we built a friendship. I think a year or two later he started the agency I signed. He was able to get me. This was the first trial he sent me out to Northern League's first division with RCA. And immediately I got there, I've been training a lot every single day, twice a day with one of my friends who plays professionally. And some actually two of my friends who play professionally. All my friends, most of them play pro and stuff like that. So I was training with guys who were older than me, played at a higher level than me. I was just that's probably the hardest I ever worked. And then even with that being said, I felt like I dominated and I was one of the last guys to get signed. So like at one point there was like am I gonna get signed or what's gonna come of this? But yeah, we had one of our last training sessions with all the trialists because at this point the team was pretty much made. I was like one or two trialists that were still training with the team. The coach called me to the end and he just told me, take your picture, sign. I went home, I called my mom, and then yeah, it just felt like it felt surreal, but I just knew the job wasn't finished. Like I was very happy, but it gave me that hunger again. Like I just feel like okay, I this is where I knew I was gonna be. I told my coach a year ago this is where I was gonna be. I'm here. Now it's time to do it again.
So these professional players that you're, training alongside, getting better off, working together. They must have had more experience. You said they're older than you, but at the same time, to the coaches that are coaching you at your local team, is there a difference in the way that they will train you compared to your coach? And if so, what's the difference?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like a coach is not worried about me. A coach is worried about the team, and I don't expect the coach to try to develop me. Like I realize it. I think people understand. I think a manager is probably the better word for them, either because they don't coach. They don't tell you how to become a better football player. We're in England. We're men. We're footballers. Like if you can't play football, go home. They're not trying to make me a better. Versus my boys, they know how much I can work and they understand my hunger. Like every single one of them, I've reached out to them. We became friends from me seeing them playing and being like, I want to be just like you. I want to like I've just humbled myself and then they were like, yeah, come train. And yeah, I feel like they know my game because I show them my weaknesses. Like I'm very, as I said, I'm always trying to learn. So like I'm very transparent with them about my weaknesses and my strong suits versus with my coach. It's just more like how I can help the team versus my boys. It's like they want to make me the most complete player possible, and
You've got to
I
have a
want to do the same.
mix. You've got to have a mix of, playing football excessively, constantly playing football, which is a dream for a lot of people. But of course, recovery is just as important, and staying fit and hydrated and all these elements. Does that sometimes overtake? Sometimes just football is just the only thing on your mind?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Someone asked me this, or not long ago. I had me. They told me, do I have a life outside of football? And they weren't saying that being to be rude. They're genuinely asking. And I looked at them and I was like, I don't know, because obviously I'm like I don't even like to watch TV that much. Honestly, I really love football. I think it doesn't. I think right now it doesn't feel too bad because this is all self-inflicted pressure, quote unquote. Like I'm just doing everything to become the best player and be ready for the next level. I feel like maybe also I'm doing that now because I understand when I do get to the next level, there's actual pressures because it is a job. Like you can get fired. It's just like any other job. You perform and you stay. If you don't, they'll replace you. So it's like that could be another pressure. But I like to think I try to be prepared for the next step before I get to it. So I don't really think the pressures will get to me. I like other things outside of football, but football is really like 90%. I like business as well. I'm very business minded.
You spoke about, so you're in university currently, or you're still studying, and
Yeah.
is that just in case the professional game doesn't work out for you? Is that why you're studying?
Originally, it wasn't, but like as I saw that I could become professional, it is becoming that. But regardless, me being professional or not, I do want to get into business, and I do want to use my degree. And yeah, I feel like you just can't be an athlete. I just even if I wasn't an athlete, I wouldn't want to be just one thing. I like to be multi-dimensional, and I want to just be able to like help people no matter how I can. And I feel like with a college degree and university degree, and if I was able to play professional football as well, I think I'd be able to do a lot more with that than just being a footballer and just worrying about myself. You know what I mean? If I'm able to get status and get money, then I'll be able to like build infrastructures in like Nigeria and stuff like that, or bring players up with me, stuff like that. Also, university is just a great place to network. Like so, yeah, I just think it makes sense for me.
A lot of players, Ronaldo might do a scoring kick, for example, and everyone would be, "Oh, I want to do this. I want to do the same thing as him. I want to score 25 goals in 20 games, for example." For yourself, who do you look up to as an aspiring professional? Do you look up to people that are in the division you're playing with, teammates, those professional friends?
Right. Yeah. My professional friends are, I'll say, that's that first like layer of people I look up to because not only do I love them, they're my boys, and I've seen them grow, and it's just the fact that because I've only been in the UK for about 3 years, so like they don't owe me anything. You know what I mean? Like they didn't grow up with me. The love that we have for each other is very genuine, and they've helped me grow so much. So I inspired to be like them, and they've helped my game. But like at the top level, I look at growing up, I used to look at like Ronaldinho a lot because I love to do skills, and he actually I used to see his technique, and I used to like kind of like copy it, and I was able to learn things from that. Now I look at the striker for Newcastle, Isaac,
Yeah.
great baller. I love Saka. I love Lukaku as well, good player. I look at a lot of players honestly because I feel like everybody has strong and weak suits. I just trying to see the strong suits from everybody and try to grow.
And lastly, although it's quite a while away, when you retire from the professional game, what would you like to do after that? Because I spoke to people, they might want to go to coaching. Some people might like to focus on business. What would you like to do?
Yeah, I've actually recent months I've been able to hold my own coaching clinic. When I went back to America, I was in America about a month ago. I was there for about 2 months. So for 6 weeks, I was able to coach some of the kids and adults in my area. And that was a surreal experience. Like I just like the biggest thing I was able to like influence my community. So that's something that I would love to get into, even if it's not necessarily coaching. I really just want to be able to use football to help people. And another thing, my biggest goal would be to provide infrastructure in like place in like Nigeria. Starting off in Nigeria, if I'm able to do other places, that'd be great. But like my home in Nigeria, I would love to just help there because I just understand how much football could do for these kids. It could change their lives. So yeah, if I'm able to retire and I have the facilities, I'll just love to help people reach their goals as well.
Io, it's been an absolute pleasure for the last hour talking to you about your career from America, Nigeria, and in England as well. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me.